Hi, Dan. Great to see you.
Great to see you too. How are you, Steve?
I'm perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks for being with us. These students, Dan, as I've told you, are just spectacularly wonderful. They're bright. They're seeing certainly inside of the hotels. A part of our work is to identify for them, well, to show them the economic models, what's at play in the industry, and to help them with their careers. And you know how much I admire you and your work.
Thank
If
you.
you don't mind introducing yourself, maybe a few minutes on your path, including EHL and Cornell. And then once we get through that, you know, what's out there for these students and what should they be armed with intellectually to help forge their way. So I'll leave it up to you and I'll jump in every so often to say, go get them. All right, have at it.
All right. Well, thank you. Really appreciate the invite, and it's great to be here. As you stated, my name is Daniel Lesser. I'm the president and CEO of a firm called LW Hospitality Advisors. We're headquartered in New York. We're a professional services firm that is focused exclusively on the lodging industry, hotels, resorts, casinos, conference centers, timeshare properties. We have 38 professionals throughout the United States. We're headquartered in New York, as I said. We have folks domiciled in Atlanta, Dallas, Austin, Cleveland, Minneapolis, Park City, Seattle, and San Diego. So we have great coverage. We have several silos of business. The first silo and the core competency is what we refer to as valuation. So within that silo includes appraisals, market studies, feasibility studies, litigation support related work. There's always litigation going on in good times and bad times. In good times, people don't talk about it, but it happens. You know, at the end of the day, you put people and money together, invariably you end up with disputes. So that's, you know, that's silo number one. And I would refer to that as non-advocacy work. So it doesn't matter who retains us. It could be an owner or a lender. It could be an owner or a municipality. It doesn't matter. Our conclusions are within a reasonable range, irrespective of who retains us. And we don't advocate for anybody but our own work. So that's silo number one. Silo number two is, we call it asset management. We do traditional third-party hotel asset management. We have about 20 assets in our portfolio. But also within that silo, we've cultivated a cadre of clients who we very respectfully refer to as newbies to the hotel space. So these are smart, sophisticated folks who either have capital or access to capital. They know and understand real estate, finance, their markets, etc. They don't know a whole lot about hotels. And one of two things happens when they get involved in their first hotel deal. You get the folks who initially approach hotels, never having done one before, as, well, it's just another food group of commercial real estate. And they quickly find out that's not the case. Hotels are a very different animal of commercial real estate. There are no credit tenancies in a hotel. Think about an office building with 10 stories and 10 tenants with 10-year leases, right? Once you lease it up, you have a pretty good idea what your revenue stream is going to be. Then you know what your expenses are going to be, and you're collecting an annuity, right? With a hotel, you're selling guest rooms every single night. And then with technology being what it is, the pricing of those rooms literally changes by the nanosecond. In an up market, that's a beautiful thing. In a down market, it'll kill you, just like we're experiencing right now. And then in addition, hotels, you know, particularly full service hotels, have other revenue streams that are very different than putting heads in beds. Food and beverage, right? The sale of food and beverage is very different than selling room nights. And then the expenses associated with running food and beverage is very different than running expenses on the room side of the house. So the hotel business is complicated, high fixed costs, high labor costs, and invariably the groups that initially approach it as just another food group of commercial real estate invariably make a mistake and then somehow find us and we find them. And it's almost comical. It's like, well, can you help us undo this mistake? Not really, but we can help you prevent the next one.
Right.
Maybe we can help mitigate any damage. Then the other groups are those who know what they know and those who know what they don't know, right? And the ones who are smart and sophisticated but know they don't know much about hotels, they either find us or we find them. And so we work with a whole cadre of folks who, at one end of the spectrum, have a dream in the head to buy or build a hotel. At the other end of the spectrum, getting it built, purchased, operational, and over the economic life of the asset, we oversee the day-to-day operator. In between those two pillars, we don't do everything. We do a lot, but we're not accountants. We're not attorneys. We're not, et cetera. But we know the right people to go to. So we have a whole slew of clients who have latched onto us for one-stop shopping, if you will. And that clearly is advocacy work. So that silo is advocacy work. Within that silo is also receivership opportunities. And with, in a down market like today, where I am the court-appointed receiver right now of a portfolio of close to 50 assets throughout the United States. So that's our second silo. The third silo is a predictive analytics platform. It's called Lodging Analytics Research and Consulting, LARC, L-A-R-C. So that's what my firm currently does. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary on January 5th. If you want to hear more about me, I can go back to the beginning of time and pick it up from there.
Before we do that, and we'll cut to that in a moment, let's go back to bucket number one, because I think they're all important, but for the students. A hotel developer finds a piece of land in Paris or near Paris, Dan. They have a vision in mind for what it might be. It's going to cost something for the land. They need to understand the market. Is that where you come in? Are you helping them understand when you said due diligence and appraisal? Let's just start with the developer, because this is awfully important for the students, and I see this as a path. Just explain a little bit. Your phone rings, your email goes off. Hello, you don't know me. I'm in Paris. I found this land. I really like it. Can you help me? Just talk for a few moments about how you add value, because I think it's an area that's great for the students.
So we add value to those who have experience in the hotel sector and those that don't have experience. Listen, the ones who do have experience, many of them need sort of an outside third-party validation that what they dream of and perceive and hope for is rooted in reality, right? That's for people who have experience already in the sector. Those that don't have experience in the sector definitely need a third-party validation to make sure that A, a hotel makes sense, and then B, what type of hotel, right? Because a hotel could be anywhere from a 10-room bed and breakfast to a 300-room branded hotel with meeting space and everything in between.
Okay, so you're helping on that analysis and what it can be and should be and might be?
Highest and best use.
Excellent. Which doesn't always mean, well, I'll ask you, it seems to me it doesn't always mean highest and best use as a luxury Ritz-Carlton. It could be a downscale market that does great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There have been fortunes made in investing in roadside Days Inns, Fairfield Inns, what have you. So 100%, it's highest and best use could be anything.
Great. It seems to me that's an extreme value. Just for a second, we'll talk a little bit in May, Dan, about purchase and sale. We also are introducing the lender at various times. This client who calls, let's just say it's an 80 million euro project. So it'll be a big project. The lender is going to want confirmation. Can you just talk about the appraisal process and why it's so important?
Sure. Well, the appraisal process is really needed to support the amount of money, if any, that a lender is going to put forth to a sponsor, whether to buy a hotel or build a hotel. Because at the end of the day, no different than buying a home, right? Before a lender provides debt financing, they want to make sure that the collateral that they look to as security, that the value is there to support the amount of debt, right? I mean,
Right.
you don't want to lend somebody $100 for an asset that's only worth 50, right? Because if it doesn't work out for some reason for the lender and they need to take control of that asset, right? They want to know that it's at least, I guess I should be talking in euros. They should know that it's 100 euros and not 50 euros.
Correct.
So,
Okay, so valuation, due diligence, appraisals, working on behalf, well, either of the developer, hotel. We drive down the street and we see a very nice hotel. It just didn't get popped there. It was a thoughtful process.
of
I
course.
assume for your knowledgeable clients, they want your opinion. Should it be a Sofitel or should it be a Raffles? Or should it be
Absolutely.
something independent?
And then not only that, there's the branding aspect of it, but there's also the economic aspect, right? So putting economics aside, one brand may be superior to the other just for recognition amongst the traveling public. However, if the economics of that brand for the owner or sponsor is too much and doesn't fit with the program, then that's not the highest and best use. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, people buy, build, and invest in hotels to make money, generally speaking. I will acknowledge that there is no shortage of ego
Right.
attraction to the lodging sector. And I've run into many folks who, upon the first question of, well, what's your objective with this potential investment? I can't begin to tell you how many times I've been told, well, I want to own this place. I want to hang out here with my friends. Oh, and what about making? Yeah, I want to make money too. I can't begin to tell you how many times I've heard that. You don't really hear that
Recently,
with you don't
do you
hear that
still
with an office building or a shopping center, right? Nobody brags about, oh, I own this shopping center. Recently,
still
40
conversation?
years, and to this day I still hear it.
So let's move backwards a little bit. I know your background. You were at, well, you can talk about your background, but you were sitting in the same seats as these students, learning the fine art of being a hotelier. I think you've worked assistant F&B. You've been in the trenches. You certainly know all there is to know, or most of what's to know about operations, and you've crafted a wonderful career. Can you just talk about how you bridge in your mind understanding operations, then understanding economics, and then creating this wonderful beast of a company?
So, there are lots of folks out there that are hold themselves out as hotel experts, and there are a lot of legitimate hotel experts out there, some of whom have actually segued into the sector without an educational background in hotels and or actual operational experience. Not many, but some. Listen, the hotel business is a very exciting business. It's dynamic. It's forever changing. It clearly is a specialized asset class for the reasons I described a couple of minutes ago. And for me, at least, it really has been terrific to be able to attend hotel school, 2 different hotel schools, ultimately graduating and working for Hilton for a number of years at the New York Hilton Hotel in Manhattan, Midtown, a 2,000 room property, an amazing learning laboratory. I went through every sub-department within the front office and then every sub-department within food and beverage. And ultimately, I ended up in catering sales. And I really learned the way hotels operate. It's a business. It's a very complicated business. And I will tell you that on retrospect, I remember when I worked at Hilton, I regretted not obtaining that experience in operations prior to going to hotel school. Because when I was in hotel school and we were learning about food cost and beverage cost and we were learning the theory, I had trouble relating to it as I was learning it. When I was actually then in operations post-graduation, I vividly recall pulling out my textbooks and rereading these concepts that meant so much more to me at that point.
Sure.
So for me, after, again, graduating hotel school, having a number of years under my belt, really knowing and understanding the hotel business, I personally became a little disillusioned with actually working in the hotel business. The hours were ridiculous. Hotels are 24/7 operations. The pay notoriously poor. If you were any good, you got shipped all over the world, which as a young man there's a compelling story to that. But I will tell you that I did encounter folks who were 20, 30 years my senior, whose personal lives just seemed really upside down. And why they were upside down, I don't know. That wasn't really important to me. I do believe that what they did for a living and being, shipped around and being in the hotel business and away from home a lot, and it didn't resonate with me as I thought about my life 30 years in the future. Okay. Right. And so I was fortunate to segue from the operational end of the business into the real estate side of the business, which is what I've been doing for 40 years now. And what I believe I bring to the table is true expertise, because I have the educational background and I have the operational background. And frankly, I have the investment background because I've invested in hotels passively and actively. So I believe that I have a background that is that really hits on all notes in terms of experience, expertise, been there, done that.
I'd like to close out, Dan, by ambushing you a little bit, because what the heck, we're here. Not really ambushing you, but let's try and give some advice to the students that they can take or not take. I'll start with, perhaps I'll ask you, conferences, reading blogs. Should students try to gather as much information as they can at this stage in their career?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no question about that. There's so much data and information out there. The first thing that one needs to do is sort of cull through the data and information and see what's really tangible and relevant, right? Because let's face it, there's a lot of stuff out there that doesn't hold a lot of meaning. So it is important to go through and see what has validity and doesn't. But to this day, I don't have enough time to read books, and I love reading books. Why don't I have enough time to read books? Because I can barely keep up with all the information that comes out about the sector, which is a passion for me. Staying in touch with what's going on in the lodging sector. So if I'm doing it after 40 years of doing this, I would think, yes, students should definitely be reading periodicals and conferences. Listen, not only can you learn at conferences from the seminars that are held, it's the ultimate networking opportunity.
Second point is related. Well, second point is I tell students across disciplines that there are people out there waiting to help you. They may not know it, and they may not know how, but I also encourage students to be a little bit bold and make the request. You and I were chatting briefly before. A student sends you an email, you might get it. It might not get to you. You might be busy. and the student also sends one to Evan, your colleague, and Eric in Cleveland. Okay, so you've sent 3 emails. One of those 3 will hopefully contact you back saying, sure, let's chat for a few minutes. Any other thoughts on being bold or, being measured, being sensible, but asking for help? Any thoughts?
I'm a big believer in that. I don't think that I don't think there's a free lunch out there whatsoever. And if you don't ask, how are you going to get? So I'm all for boldness, obviously in a very respectful manner. And quite frankly, my history has been when I really want something, I make up my mind to go get it, and I don't let anything get in my way. And I have articulated in the past to barriers that I've encountered that very respectfully that I'm not going away, and I'm not going to go away until I achieve my goal, whatever that goal is. I do find that a lot of people kind of give up too easily, or they're not bold, as you said, to make the ask.
Right.
Nobody is out there, looking to tap anybody else and say, "Oh, I like you. Come, let me teach you." Right? You need to go approach folks. And what's the worst that's going to happen? The worst that's going to happen is they may not answer you. Right? The worst that can happen is they may say, "You know what, just go away. I'm too busy for you." And okay, next, move on.
Right. Final point, and then I'll let you have the final word. Final point for me is, well, I don't know very many people as exceptional as you in extending kindnesses. For
Thank
me, I'd like 2 things, and I think I'm being genuine. I'd like some sort of simple thank you. A note is awfully nice, but if someone's in Paris and you're in New York, that may not be realistic. But if someone's in New Jersey, that would be nice for them to send you a note. And I'd like for them to pay it forward. I probably won't know if they pay it forward. Sometimes I do, but it's nice to receive just a sincere thanks. Your thoughts on that?
It's incredibly important. I can't begin to tell you how many people reach out to me for advice, guidance, counseling, just to talk, what have you. I used to respond to everybody. At this point in my career, I can't respond to everybody because that's what I would be doing full time. So unless somebody comes to me through a relationship that I currently have, it's really hard for me to do that. But I've always made a point of making myself available to those that reach out, and I don't forget where I came from. I remember when I was in the seat of the students you're talking about. It was not that long ago, and I remember vividly those who were kind and gracious and willing to spend a bit of time with me, and those who didn't have the time. And I remember clearly saying to myself that, God willing, when I was in the position of being able to give back, that I was going to make sure to do that. And I have always stuck by that. I think it's important. Now, with that being said, coming back to your question, I am somewhat amused. When I was brought up, and I seem to recall when I grew up, somebody helped you, you wrote a thank you note, right? And it's not difficult. It's not complicated. I don't really understand, like, how could you not say thank you? But I am amazed at
Yeah.
the number of folks who I've encountered, who I still encounter through relationships. I'll spend an hour of time with them. I'll never hear from them again. Or I may hear from them later on down the line because they need something. Well, that's not a good impression, right? I mean,
No.
you used an hour of my time, you didn't say thank you, and now you're calling me again because you need me. It's, it's not difficult to say thank you.
Right. I have one story, and then I'll leave it up to you. Dan, you've been incredibly kind to come to DC most years. 2 years ago, you were going to come to the program, maybe 3 years ago, 2 years ago. The 2 nights before, you sent me a note saying, I am so sorry. I've got a conflict. I can't make it. I hate to disappoint you. And I've called my colleague in Cleveland, and he'll be there. He's driving on his own. what more can I ask for? It's a great friendship, and I appreciate your time. And now I'm going to give you the last word for the students.
The last word is be positive. Don't, the hospitality business, if you think about it, being hospitable is being warm and gracious and welcoming. And in order to do that, you have to be in a positive frame of mind. So maintain that even for your personal well-being. It's important, right? Negativity is corrosive. So I would say, be positive and go, swing for the fences. Go for what you want, right? And even if you have a goal in the future that you're working towards, that doesn't mean you can't veer off to the right or to the left and maybe end up somewhere else. But you need to have some direction as to, where you want to go and how you're going to get there, and take advantage of senior folks in the sector who have, the wherewithal and the willingness to share knowledge, content, connectivity, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of being told no. If you're being told no, okay, no problem. Nice to meet you, and you go on to the next one. There will always be somebody.
Dan, it's a great pleasure. Always good to see you. Stay well, in good health with you and your family.
Thank you.
And we're going to bring you to Paris one of these days. I know it.
Terrific. Thank you so much.
And welcome back. We are having our next management agreement exercise. Like the other, Michael Schindler is going to lead our conversation with our two guests. Michael, it's your call.
Thank you. This circumstance is a capital expenditure exercise. Every year, hotels go through a budget process, and typically the manager, whether it's the branded manager or the third-party manager, will present to the owner not just an operating budget, but an anticipated budget for capital expenditures, improvements to the property, fixing the roof, fixing the elevator, items of that magnitude. And typically that too is part of the owner-operator budgetary approval conversation. And this exercise piggybacks on that. The circumstance here is that the owner owns a brand-managed hotel near the Paris Convention Center. The brand is probably the third largest brand in Europe, sitting behind Accor and Intercontinental Hotel Group in importance among European brands. It has 7 different nameplates, including a new soft branded nameplate. The initial brand under this company's stable of brands changed its logo about 7 years ago and required all the hotels to change their signage, including their rooftop, their ground level signs, their over the porte-cochere signs, and so forth. By the end of 2018, owner has a 200-room hotel with a generous complement of meeting space, and under that initial brand. It was also being renovated, a complete rooms and public area renovation for about the second half of 2017 and well into 2018, about a 12 million euro plan suggested and approved by the brand operator. Accordingly, brand operator permitted the owner to defer changing its signage to the new logos until the end of the year of 2019. And due to capital shortages following the renovation in mid-2019, the owner requested and the brand agreed to defer the sign replacement until mid-June 2020. In all respects, both owner and brand operator have been happy with the 10-year relationship. There are 5 years more remaining on the term of this agreement. In April of 2020, due to COVID and hotel closures and the need to reserve capital, the brand family announced a deferral of all capital renovations and expenditures, excluding emergencies, of course, until 2021. Furthermore, just as the 2021 operating and capital budget was being discussed, the brand deferred all capital expenditures through June 2021 due to the continuing effects of COVID. Here, the 2021 operating budget shows a $1.5 million operating profit before payment of loan interest and principal and other typical below the line costs, real estate taxes and the like. By way of comparison, in 2019, operating profit, even with the renovation having just been completed, was about 3.5 times at 5.2 million euro. Owner for 2021, now the owner and the brand operator have approved the operating budget, but the operator is insisting that the signage be completed no later than third quarter 2021. Owner has responded with a request to further defer new signage until June of 2022. And just to be sure, the signage is a cost of about 300,000 euro. And the owner during the COVID crisis has already spent about 3 million euro of its own funds to support the hotel, to maintain it, to provide security and the like. So the regional VP of Finance has reached out to the owner to negotiate this final issue of the 2021 budget cycle and has placed a phone call. Crystal?
You want to just describe what Crystal's role is and what Dan Lester's role is, Michael?
Oh, sorry, yes. Crystal Swope is acting here as the regional VP for France for the brand company. She's familiar with operations. She oversees any number of hotels throughout France, including under all of the brand family's brands. Is very experienced and realizes that this is an ownership relationship she wants to maintain. Dan Lesser is our owner. Dan is both personally and in this role play a sophisticated hotel owner. He understands the business. He obviously has the wherewithal to support his investments, and he has acted rationally through the COVID crisis, having completed the renovation just prior to it. And so this is a friendly and not adverse relationship whatsoever.
Okay.
And Crystal, as the regional VP of Finance for the brand, has set this call to Dan, and we're eavesdropping on the call.
Thank you.
Hi, Dan. How are you? It's good to see you again.
I'm terrific. How are you?
I'm great. So in good news, almost everything else is wrapped up with the budget, and we're just now down to this one issue. From what I understand, you have requested to defer the capital expenditure for the new signage until 2022. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And could you walk me through just sort of what your rationale is for the request and just your thought process for that?
Sure. Obviously, you're fully aware of what's going on in the world.
Right.
You know, COVID initially, I'm sure you recall when it really became a thing. The anticipation, you know, much earlier in 2020, the anticipation was it would be over and done with by the latest the end of the summer. And obviously, that's not the case. We're actually seeing, you know, significant new cases of COVID. Dramatic rise of deaths, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm sure I don't need to tell you that we are burning through a tremendous amount of cash just to keep the facility. And at the end of the day, right now we're cash strapped and don't have the funds to facilitate the signage change. Obviously, we're more than happy to do it at an appropriate time. We've demonstrated seriousness all along by completing the renovation that we just completed. We do enjoy a terrific relationship with you and your colleagues, and we'd like to continue that and are respectfully requesting this deferral.
Yes, and I understand that we are completely aware of all of the pressures and hardships that owners are facing right now with COVID. As you know, COVID's impact doesn't just impact owners, it's also having an impact on the brands as well. And unfortunately, this is a hard time for everyone. And we absolutely understand where you're coming from, and that this is a difficult time for everyone. Absolutely, there's no disagreement on that. Unfortunately, in our case here, the request for the signage is something that, well, you may know, but we actually switched our logo almost 7 years ago now. So you are officially the last hotel that does not have our new signage and our logo. And we've deferred it a couple times now, once in 2019, again in 2020. And as you know, with coronavirus, we did take the position that no capital expenditures were going to be necessary until 2021 in order to give owners like you a big financial break. But unfortunately now, our brand really is our value. It's the most important thing to us. It looks very bad for us to have one hotel that doesn't have the matching logo and the brand. And it is at this point now really important for us to switch the signage. And so we'd really like to work with you. We can buy you a little bit more time. Unfortunately, we don't think 2022 is going to be able to work. Obviously, we love working with you. We love working with your team. We love the property. We don't want this to be, a negative thing with our relationship, but it is very important to us. And so we really are having to take a hardline stance here to say it really does need to be switched by 2021.
So first of all, you're not taking a hardline stance. Completely understand where you're coming from, as you appropriately stated. You've been very gracious, and your company's been very gracious about giving us 2 extensions thus far. Obviously, nobody knew about COVID. I'd like to also point out that I completely sympathize with the fact that hotel companies, it's interesting. I hear people say about, well, they work off of, gross revenues, and it's the owners who suffer the consequences. And I completely realize there are no gross revenues, and therefore your revenues are significant as well. So appreciate that. Why don't we do this? Why don't we plan on guaranteeing that by December 31st, 1:59 p.m., that the sign will be replaced no matter what?
I really appreciate that, and I would love to accept that. Unfortunately, the answer is going to be no. I think the very latest that we could agree to at this point is the end of September 2021.
So we're talking a difference of 3 months.
Yes, fortunately, yes. And I know that sounds trivial to you, but unfortunately, that is the timeline that we have, and I don't have, that is really the last possible date that I can further extend this. As you know, we've extended this so many times, and both, on a personal note, it is sort of my, it's on my plate to ensure that this gets done, and it would be very important to me personally also to ensure that this gets done by that date.
Okay. Why don't we just put that aside for a second? I'm aware that you folks have developed or are developing a new soft brand community, I believe it's called. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. And you know what? Actually, we have a great team. Our acquisitions team and our design team will be more than happy to walk you through all of the parameters of community. On the finance side, I will probably not do that brand justice, and it has a lot of amazing features and things we'd love to tell you about. So as soon as we get off this call, I'm happy to put you in touch with the team that kind of walk you through, show you all the pictures, show you all the everything so you can envision it completely. But before I do that, let's just get this signage thing settled. I would really love to get off this phone and have you agree to me that we are going to just swap out the signage by September 30th and call it a day. And then you won't have to hear from me any further, and we can go about our day. You'll have our new logo. Everyone will be happy.
But I actually am looking for an excuse to hear from you again. Just kidding.
Fine.
So let me tell you why I asked about this new soft brand. We, prior to COVID hitting, we were exploring acquisition, and we continue to explore acquisition of another asset, hotel property, plus or minus 8 kilometers from the subject property. Obviously, given what's going on in the world, the notion of acquiring that is sort of been on hold. We do hope to get that conversation restarted, and frankly, we're very keen to acquire the asset. We can obtain it free and clear of management, as well as an existing brand that currently is on the property. And we really believe that it's ideal for conversion to a soft brand. Hence the question. So I'm telling you this because I, again, am respectfully asking, and perhaps you could run this up the flagpole. We do have another opportunity coming down and enjoy our working relationship, and would like to continue to do business with you folks and talk to you about management and or branding this soft brand on this acquisition, assuming we consummate the deal. Now, I also want to make sure that I don't want you to think I'm misleading you and I'm guaranteeing you that we're going to acquire this asset. I'm not guaranteeing that, but I can tell you that we've been working on this for quite some time prior to COVID. The anticipation is to rejuvenate those conversations. And to tell you frankly, although hotel values have declined during these past 10, 11 months, we are not taking the position that this asset and the price that we were talking about has eroded. So something else to sort of think about in terms of our ability to actually take down this property.
Absolutely, and we're always eager to hear about new potential properties. We love our relationship with you. We'd love to expand that relationship. We very much look forward to hearing more about this potential project. And of course, please let me know what you can need from us in order to push that through, or any connections you may need from our end. Would love to chat that further. But even still, I still want to make sure that we end up this call talking about the one thing that I called to talk to you about, is making sure that I can get you to agree that we're going to change the signage. Because look, regardless of whether it's this brand or a soft brand on a new deal, you're buying a brand, right? And part of that brand that you're buying is the logos, the look, the feel. And so we really need to make sure that our owners are on board with our brands, whether it's this brand or a new brand. And I think it would be an important commitment to our brand. I know you've shown your commitment to us in many, many ways, especially during coronavirus. There's a lot of owners who have defaulted, who have gone in foreclosure. You have not. You have come out of pocket a lot of money. And I know that any additional dollar is not trivial, but it is important to ensuring that your hotel, which is branded under our name, continues to meet the standard. And if we let you get away with it, then unfortunately, you know how it is. While the other owners are not going to want to do it either, because nobody really wants to spend money to change the signage. But unfortunately, it's something that comes with the package deal. We have to do it. And so at this point, we really need to just come to terms that it's going to be switched up by the end of September.
And Dan, I'm going to give you the last word on the conversation. This has been excellent, but you get to have the last word, and then we'll wrap it up.
Who, me?
On your response to Crystal's last comment.
So I was going to offer her a counter proposal.
Go ahead.
But then she's going to have to respond.
Okay, go ahead. And then she can respond.
Okay. So, Crystal, thank you. And I completely resonate, and my platform completely resonates where you're coming from. Obviously, we would not be happy if others were not maintaining the brand standards, if you will. I would like to note that a couple of things. You did indicate that we're the very last one. So it's not like, and we're not looking to get away with anything whatsoever. We're asking for 90 more days than what you've proposed. And what I'd like to you to consider is that in addition to this potential acquisition, we really believe that the subject property, and this is another reason to think about holding off on the signage for another 90 days, we believe the subject property might very well be a terrific fit for this new soft brand. So we could potentially be looking at a 2-for-1 situation here. I'm respectfully asking you again, 90 days is really not going to make a big difference. If you think about it, the world is pretty shut down. People are really not traveling for the most part. And I'm sure you would have to concede that September 30th versus December 31st would really not hinder or hurt the brand. And the last thing I'll throw out there is that I'm willing to offer up a personal guarantee, not a corporate guarantee, a corporate and a personal guarantee that by December 31st, the signage will be up, whether it's the new soft brand that we agreed to or the existing brand.
Okay, Crystal, we're giving you the last word, not to counter proposal, but to accept or defer.
Okay, wow, that's a very interesting offer. I will certainly go back and consider it. I cannot tell you yes at this moment. My position will still be September 30th, but perhaps we can chat about how we can throw you a bone on the other deal. We can work around that. That would probably be the easiest solution. We get you change signage September 30th, and we talk about maybe something on the new deal, reduce fee, the reduced FF&E reserve, and that way you don't have to give us any personal guarantee. I get what you want, you get a better deal on your new deal, and we can all, call this a day.
Terrific, terrific. I really appreciate your flexibility.
Wonderful. Michael, I'm going to give you the last word to summarize and what I thought was just an exceptional dialogue and a realistic exchange. Go ahead, Michael.
I think it was brilliant. I think that, Dan, you need to understand, Crystal was in fear for her job. September 30th was the last day she had authority to go to on this call. I think the way you presented the second opportunity was as attractive as it possibly could have been. And I think in the real world, somebody would have said, let's come back to September 30th. Let's come back to this then. That's new information from the brand side. I think in ordinary circumstances, Crystal would have probably said, wow, that's a great proposal. But as you know, I'm not the development person. I need to come back to you, and sort of left it there. I think insisting on the September 30 was, she acquitted herself very well, throwing that out there. And as you and I spoke yesterday, I had not anticipated that would become part of your conversation. But then when you suggested it, it was brilliant. And so Crystal's reaction was excellent from her position as a VP, a regional VP, as opposed to a development person. So I think this went about as well as I could have expected it. So kudos to both of you.
Michael, can you just clarify what you were just referring to when you and I spoke yesterday? I missed that part.
Well, you said I may throw out the notion of offering the second, doing the 2-for-1, whereas in my contemplation, when I drafted the exercise, it was sort of just part of your background.
Got it.
But you said, why wouldn't I throw it out there? And actually, you advanced your proposal by a quarter as well, so that 90 versus 180, which I had suggested, was even better.
Right, and hopefully I was clear too that I was not guaranteeing anything.
No, nothing. I mean, the sign, if you were going to stay with them, you were going to put up the sign. That's pretty much what you said.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so when we have the individual sessions with Crystal, she can hear us, but she's having microphone problems, and also with Dan, I will ask you about negotiation strategies. Probably not do it now, but how you like to end conversations, continue conversations. Michael, a superb scenario for us. Crystal, thanks so much for your time. And Dan, great to see you as always. Everyone be well.
Before we go,
Yes.
Mr. Goldman, anything? I haven't heard anything from you since I signed on.